play out matches towards the end of the tournament. And anytime people are playing out matches towards the end of the tournament instead of intentionally drawing, I think it makes the tournament and the coverage of it more exciting.
I agree. Plus, honestly, flipping a bunch of coins is as random as it gets to see who goes first. Having the small edge be determined by something that is linked to performance and skill.
Yep. No, I totally agree. As Mitch starts off the action in the semifinals here with the Temple of Silence.
Now, obviously we know that Hite's looking for Blood Barons. What is Mitch Yunker what is he looking to do now that he doesn't have a 1-drop?
I think that Imposing Sovereign's a reasonable tool in disrupting a lot of Harrison's defensive creatures. And I think Zathra Necromancer gives him some durability against all the removal spells that Harrison's going to be presenting as well. So I think a mixture of those kind of cards is what is called for here.
Now, when we saw Black-White humans lose to Blood Baron earlier, but the time that we saw them actually beat a Black-White midrange, the Black-White midrange did not have Desecration Demons alongside the Blood Barons. This one may prove to be a little more challenging with this many fatties.
Yeah. Although Zathra Necromancer does provide a pretty good solution to Desecration Demon. So.
Oh, absolutely.
So you see a turn 1 Thoughtseize here from Harrison, looking at a hand of Orzhov Charm, Orzhov Guildgate, Imposing Sovereign, Plains, and Tormented Hero, and selects the Imposing Sovereign.
Yeah, so when you're on the mull to 6, it is particularly tough to be Thoughtseized, you know. He just is running a little short on resources.
Certainly amplifies the effect. As you see an Orzhov Guildgate and a Tormented Hero.
So what do you think about Tormented Hero instead of Dryad Militant?
I mean, you gotta, last time I checked, Dryad Militant's not a human, so that
is true.
That answers that question.
That is true.
You see ultimate price here take out the Tormented Hero.
Plus, sometimes you Orzhov Charm and bounce your Tormented Hero back to your hand.
Mm-hmm.
Make them taste it.
A lot of really subtle but sweet synergies.
That is a very subtle amount of sweetness. Man, so what do you think about the shortage of Sphinx's Revelation? The shortage of Palakranos in the top 8.
Really unexpected. You see Read the Bones from Harrison. It's a card kind of back on the radar now. 2 different decks in our semifinals are playing this.
Yeah, I mean, Read the Bones, quite a strong card. Saw some, a fair bit of play at the top in Dublin. Fell out of favor as a result of Grey Merchant becoming the big thing and making everybody go to Underworld Connections. But with so much Black-White wanting to use Blood Baron instead of Grey Merchant, there's been less of a need to have that many Underworld Connections, and rather than just walk face first into Detention Sphere and so on, people are mixing it up and playing 2 and 2, which I really like.
You see Mitch casts a Thoughtseize of his own here, looks at a hand of Elspeth, Desecration Demon, Blood Baron, Hero's Downfall, Swamp, and Temple of Silence.
Wow, looks to friends.
I would have to imagine that Blood Baron is going to be selected out of this hand.
I think it's got to be, and it's tough because you're looking at your hand, you're like, okay, I can't beat the Blood Baron at all, so I definitely have to take that, but which means I'm going to have to face this Desecration Demon. I've got an Orzhov Charm, so I'm going to just eat 6 more life, but that's fine. Now I'm against an Elspeth with no answers in my deck, and I'm just going to have to hope he doesn't draw a 6th land.
Yeah, yep. That is the out that Mitch has here to this Elspeth, as a follow-up Thoughtseize, or just Harrison never finds the 2nd white source of mana.
Right, because you can't, he's got enough mana to cast the Blood Baron showing, and you can't beat it. Mm-hmm. So you have to take it. At least the Elspeth, you can hope he doesn't draw another white, hope you draw a Thoughtseize in time. I mean, you've got lots of things you can hope for. Mm-hmm. And the Demon you already have an answer to, it's just going to be painful.
So Mitch goes ahead and takes the Blood Baron.
Yeah.
I suspect not the first time this tournament Mitch has Thoughtseized away a Blood Baron.
No, this is also not his first rodeo. There's the second, oof, there's the other white. So Harrison definitely in a real comfortable spot.
Plays the Temple and Scries to the bottom and passes the turn.
Harrison at this point probably just looking for more reactive cards, trying to get a more well-rounded hand.
Yeah.
What do you make of, or what do you think of playing the Temple there instead of the Desecration Demon?
I think it's reasonable to assume that Mitch has some sort of reactive card. I think he also just wants to play Elspeth on time. There is some incentive to try to cast as fast as possible because you know Mitch has additional thought seizes. It's not totally safe in your hand, and because Elspeth is, you know, very good chance it's just game over, as opposed to Desecration Demon, which Mitch can potentially answer. I'd rather focus on casting that on time.
So Mitch deciding whether or not to Orzo of Charm his Imposing Sovereign now that Harrison has Heroes Downfalled it. And it looks like he will, which is a very bold play for a man who knows he's facing a Desecration Demon.
Yeah. Mitch may just be on Zathra Necromancer or bust from here. He might not have enough raw power to get through this demon. And Mitch passes the turn.
So at this point, Harrison just going to continue to develop his board. He's even got to read the bones now once there are actually problems that he needs to try to solve to go look for answers. A Desecration Demon comes down.
And this is a pretty enviable position for Harrison, as it's not clear that Mitch can beat Desecration Demon or the Elspeth left over.
Yeah. At this point, Mitch, well, I guess he needed a Thought Seize first just because the Elspeth is going to completely win, but I think at this point, there's just too many problems.
Yeah. Soldier to the Pantheon and Imposing Sovereign comes down for Mitch now, who has no hand, and Blood Baron of Escopa off the top.
Yeah, this is looking
for Harrison. Decides with Elspeth. Either one is probably game over, so not a big deal.
Yeah, I like the more conservative approach.
Yeah.
Like showing him, I don't know, showing him the card that he already knew. Not that it matters too much here. It seems like it's probably just academic.
Yeah. Mitch just too low on resources, and more significantly, too low on resources that actually matter. He's drawn some spells, but they're just so low impact compared to what Harrison's drawn.
Definitely.
So Harrison elects not to attack with its Desecration Demon, holding back to protect his Elspeth, and passes the turn. Again, Blood Baron still in hand. Commanding position.
Yeah.
And Mitch goes ahead and attacks with both creatures. Curious timing with his ultimate price here, but probably pretty low impact in the scheme of things.
Well, he could have knocked Elspeth to 1, but it's probably not enough to matter anyway.
Yeah.
Particularly with that Blood Baron waiting in the wings. It's interesting. We've seen a kind of a tide all weekend where, you know, a changing tide where earlier in the tournament we saw a bunch of the mainstream decks. Later we saw some rogue decks, some black-white humans and Naya hexproof and things like that. I would not be surprised if our finals is a black-white mid-range showdown again.
Could very well be.
We talked about this just at the round 1 of the tournament, that the deck to play this weekend was very likely black-white, given how many people in the tournament are all playing control and black.
Yeah. I think if I was, in a purely objective sense, if you asked me at the start of the tournament, what would I play this weekend, I would have said some sort of Sphinx's Revelation strategy, but none to be found here.
Yeah, no, I think that the black-white is particularly well positioned as long as red-green isn't winning.
Yeah.
And we saw some red-green earlier in the day, but as the tournament went on, red-green struggled a little bit because everybody was so aiming for it, and the black-white decks managed to dodge red-green long enough. Not that they're in bad shape or anything, it's just that when you're on the Blood Baron plan, obviously Mizium Mortars is some kind of a problem, and Desecration Demon is a little bit hurt by the sheer volume of Dreadbores that the red-green decks are playing these days.
Yeah. So we are going to be moving on to the sideboard momentarily, but first we're going to be coming back to the booth. Welcome back, Patrick Sullivan, Patrick Chapin. We have a trivia question, and for those of you who are not familiar with the rules, the way that this works is Patrick here will be asking you a question. You will tweet your answer at SCG Live and hashtag SCG Premium. Of the correct answers, one will be drawn at random to receive the 6 free months, and it is not about speed, it is about accuracy. So don't worry about being the first one submitted. We draw at random from all the correct responders.
All right. So there was a Magic. I guess there still is a Magic internet video show of some sort that helped pioneer the field of Magic videos. It's a show that made Evan Irwin famous.
Yep.
And that Evan Irwin made famous. If you know the name of the show, tweet at us. Here's a hint. The subject is magic.
The subject is magic.
Right. So
that's a good hint.
So Evan Irwin made some kind of a show covering the topic of magic. And if you know the name of his show, tweet at SCG Live, use hashtag SCG Premium, and maybe you'll win 6 months of premium.
This is a fairly intuitive answer. Just not to spoil anything.
I don't know. I mean, it depends on what your intuition is. But if you know the name of the show that Evan Irwin did about magic and does about magic, tweet at SCG Live. SCG Premium is the hashtag.
So, sideboards. What does Mitch have access to try to shore up this matchup, and specifically Blood Baron of Vizkopa?
Yeah, the Blood Baron of Vizkopa, he doesn't have a ton of answers. He's got 2 Renounce the Guilds, which unfortunately don't really have any other applications besides hitting Blood Baron, but at least it's an out. I guess it's theoretically possible that somehow you'll get into a spot where it'll kill an Obsidian or a Sin Collector that are boarded in, but I don't think the Sin Collector is all that good after board anyway, and often the Sin Collector will, eat a Renounce the Guilds the Sin Collector will just take it out of his hand, and then Obsidian, a tough one to hit sometimes, but...
So you imagine the Renounce the Guilds, 3 Dark Betrayals, and the Zathra Necromancer coming in, something along those lines?
Yeah, I think most likely, I don't think you can afford to bring in Glare of Heresy. I do think you're going to bring in Sin Collector some amount of the time just to hit removal spells, but particularly if you're on the play.
Yeah. And on the other side, Harrison's Black-White mid-range sideboard, 2 Lifebane Zombies, 2 Sin Collectors, 2 Doomblades, 2 Obstat Ghost Councils, an Erebos God of the Dead, 4 Duresses, and 2 Revoke Existences.
Yeah, he's got a lot of nice options. The 2 Lifebane Zombies are definitely good. The 2 Doomblades, I think, are good enough. It just depends on what you're cutting. I wouldn't really want Thoughtseize in this matchup, so having access to a little bit more removal would be good. Beyond that, it's just a combination of things like Obsidian or Sin Collector, depending on how he wants to play the matchup.
So are you, how strong are you on the removing Thoughtseize? Because kind of from my perspective, Mitch has a lot of marginal cards and then a couple payoffs that he's trying to, really capitalize on, whether it's Zathra Necromancer, maybe Spear of Heliod in a couple of cases. It feels, like he's going to have a lot of hands that are a bunch of 2/1s and then 1 critical piece of the puzzle. And against those kind of draws, Thoughtseize can be pretty good.
Yeah, no, I think that first of all, when Thoughtseize is bad, it's not very bad. And second, I don't even think it's bad here. I think it's just a question of tuning. The card draw he has is not at its best here. I think that Thoughtseize, it does have the big advantage of hitting Zathra Necromancer, which is by far the most important card, but this is one of those spots where you're going to see the player's familiarity with their deck, see how does he want to play it, what does he value, what are the games he actually wins. Either way, I think he's got his work cut out for him, as the number of big heavy hitters is going to be somewhat problematic, which actually is another argument for Thoughtseize, because, well, obviously Mitch Yunker's Thoughtseizes are great against Hite. The Thoughtseize out of Harrison can often clear the way for his heavy hitters, take the removal spell that could potentially hit his demon.
On the other side of the bracket, Neil Hartman playing Red-White Burn takes game 1 against Marcus the Bow playing Black-White mid-range. Quite the upset to beat Blood Baron game 1. And he does have 2 copies of Mizium Mortars in his sideboard to shore it up a little bit in the post-board games. But getting out of game 1 with a win is a big win there for Neil.
Absolutely. I mean, he's gonna be his back against the wall matchups, so it's not like a blowout any of the games. He's just a little bit behind, all of the time. Marcus
mulling over his opening hand here. And he is going to mulligan. For a player playing in, his first open, looks a little bit on the younger side. Mitch is showing a lot of gravitas at the table. There's definitely a professionalism to his demeanor that I really like. Looks like Harrison happy with his 7.
Are you saying that because of the bouncing or the shaking of excitement? Yeah, that's a man who's got some land and a Blood Baron.
Yeah. Is it something like 4 lands, Blood Baron, Thoughtseize, Bioblight, or something along those lines?
So I actually think he's only got 2 land. However, at least 1 is a scry land.
We'll find out momentarily. But in any case, Harrison looks. I usually say happy enough, but I would step that up and say more than happy enough.
Yeah, I think he was happy enough the moment he looked at the deck list and saw a real shortage of ways to get rid of Blood Baron in this black-white deck. Definitely a good weekend to play black-white.
Yeah, it's really funny, for as complicated as Magic metagaming can be and the way the matchups play up sometimes, it's just he has a deck full of black and white cards, and I have a creature with protection from black and white, and that's basically how the game goes.
Yeah, it's amusing the little history, the little path that black-white has been on since the beginning of the Theros format. Black-white was real good at the beginning of the format, and it kind of faded out of popularity a little bit because of the surge of mono black.
Mm-hmm.
However, the black-white decks eventually evolved and now have the edge in the mirror.
Turn 1, Swamp and Thoughtseize. We are looking at Godless Shrine, Swamp, Bioblight, 2 Heroes Downfalls, a Blood Baron, and an Elspeth. So we were both kind of right.
Oh yeah. He only has the 2 land. He does have the Blood Baron. No scry land though.
I marked this as a win for both of us.
Sure, why not? Let's give ourselves some extra credit while we're giving out points here.
And Mitch goes ahead and takes the Blood Baron, leaving Harrison flush removal spells.
That's weird.
And a scry land off the top.
So that's the thing about psychic powers sometimes.
Yeah.
He scryed and kept it on top. Not a great sign for Mitch.
And Mitch plays a Tormented Hero on turn 2.
Yeah, only a single land. Not a great spot.
And Harrison takes that opportunity to just Bioblight away the Tormented Hero.
Let's get her done.
Big draw for Mitch off the top here with Godless Shrine.
Absolutely. He's going to make a little bit of a game of it here, particularly if he can eventually find an answer to that Elspeth.
Yeah, but that feels like the problem with this matchup. Because Harrison has so much removal to bridge the gap, it's really hard for Mitch to apply significant pressure, and Harrison has so many cards that are just lights out if they hit the table.
Yeah.
So you see a follow-up Thoughtseize from Mitch take away the Elspeth.
So even though this is like a bad spot for Mitch, he's not doing that bad. He's not doing that bad,
Yeah.
I mean, Harrison's got more resources to work with, and Mitch has got nothing going on. But at least he dealt with the 2 big unbeatable cards.
Yeah. You see Hero's Downfall there from Harrison. Take care of the Boros Elite. Mitch plays a replacement Tormented Hero.
I like his style here. He's leading with the more, the dispensable creatures, the disposable creatures, and letting the Hero's Downfalls eat them, saving the slightly better Imposing Sovereign for later.
But as you mentioned before, Harrison pretty light on resources here. A hand of just 2 Godless Shrines and a Hero's Downfall.
Yeah, plenty of mana, so if he draws any of his heavy hitters, he'll be in real good shape.
And another Hero's Downfall from Harrison.
So he has access to enough mana to do anything in his deck, but Mitch, lighter on mana, however, has enough mana to cast anything except his double white cards.
You see Mutavault off the top here for Mitch, and an Imposing Sovereign.
It's another land. Now at least Harrison's got the ability to trade his Mutavault for one of Mitch's cards, and wow, that's pretty good.
Plains off the top, and that's going to enable
the spear.
Mitch to deploy Spear of Heliod.
Yeah, this has been a nice little progression for Mitch, given the disadvantage he had to start from.
Now we're going to see if Mitch is going to offer up this Imposing Sovereign into the Mutavault momentarily.
What do you think? If you're Mitch, do you want to trade there? I mean, it temporarily sets Harrison back 1 mana, but he's obviously flooded.
Yeah, I think it's worth saving because Imposing Sovereign does some amount of work against Elspeth and Blood Baron.
Sure.
So since that's your best insurance policy at this point, about for those cards coming off the top, I think the Imposing Sovereign is probably more valuable than giving Harrison the option to trade with his Mutavault. So Mitch across.
Mutavault gets in for 3. Hey, if you got to draw a land, and it can't be Mutavault.
Yeah, Scryland's the one you would want. And Mitch is going to leave Soldier of the Pantheon on top of his deck.
Yeah, I guess he just figures I'll take any spell at this point.
And Harrison with yet another land off the top.
Wow, Mitch climbing back in this.
Across again with the Mutavault for 3 points of damage. And there's the Soldier. Thoughtseize the draw for Harrison.
Yeah, we talked about how risky Thoughtseize was, but this is the spot where it's not at its best.
Yeah, Harrison under the gun and Mitch empty-handed and can just cast anything he draws. Mutavault fired up, and it comes into the red zone alongside Soldier of the Pantheon. Harrison fires up the Mutavault and tries to trade with the Soldier, which happens.
Now, what do you think? Is it worth 3 damage to have a Sovereign instead of a Soldier of the Pantheon? It's tricky.
Yeah, it's, you know.
Now here we see some value with the Demon starting tapped. So already it pays off, as that's 6 extra damage right there.
Yeah.
So very smart play by Mitch Yunker.
Yeah, Imposing Sovereign's a pretty critical piece against these decks. It's fairly innocuous, but this sort of thing comes up a fair bit. As you see.
Oh, whoa, does the Sovereign forget to get in there?
Yeah.
It's been staying home for so long.
I'm not sure if there's even anything he's playing around there.
No, I think it was just a minor gaffe.
Yeah.
But a Blood Baron coming to the party is going to very quickly end things.
So Harrison says, I want to attack with Desecration Demon. He chooses not to in the face of Spear of Heliod and deploys Blood Baron, which is going to demand a Renounce the Guilds from Mitch pronto. And Mitch has just drawn a lot of lands in the in-turn.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think we might have come to the end of the road.
Yeah.
That Blood Baron is just, I mean, if there are 2 colors Blood Baron is good against, it is black and white. Man, no Damarerade, no Palakranos, no Sphinx's Revelation.
And 2 different decks with Read the Bones.
Yeah.
I would have lost this bet coming into the tournament had you offered up that line.
2 different decks with Herald of Torment.
I would have
2 different styles of decks with Herald of Torment.
Yeah. Harrison draws another land here, but probably doesn't matter too much, as Blood Baron is worth a lot of cards out of Mitch's deck.
Did you test Read the Bones at all for the Pro Tour in Dublin?
I can't recall.
Because you guys ended up playing like a red Perforos deck, right?
Yeah, it was a 3-color deck basically, but it was a devotion strategy.
What was the 3rd color besides? I mean, obviously
Red, blue,
green,
green. But it was all hybrid mana stuff.
Oh no! But you actually didn't? Did you guys not actually play Damarerade and Xenagos?
I was sort of out of the loop for that PT. I did not do a ton of legwork.
Well, in that case, didn't you play white? I mean, you Boros Reckoner too, then, right?
Sure.
In for a penny, in for a pound.
Pain's here, draw from Mitch here.
So at this point, Mitch has got basically, wow.
So it looks like Mitch going in for one last flailing punch to the jaw before he's finally knocked out here. Sacrifices his fresh Pain Seer to tap down the Desecration Demon and sends
he's
in the
still got
Mutavault
time.
Imposing Sovereign.
He can still do this.
Well, now Desecration Demon is also...
Well, he can still tap it again, though, with the Sovereign.
Oh, I'm just saying now it's
Or
the Abyss.
Mutavault. Oh, yeah.
So...
Yeah, this needs to be a Renounce the Guilds next turn. Or I don't think he's got any, I think he's got no more counterplay.
So Harrison announcing combat here, and the Desecration Demon trigger going on the stack. And Mitch has to sacrifice something, and he sacks the Imposing Sovereign. Blood Baron comes across for 4 more. And Mutavault for Harrison.
Threatening lethal now.
A nice additional piece of insurance.
This needs to be a Renounce the Guilds in his Daring Skyjack. An excellent showing from Mitch Yunker. A great tournament. Just a little bit short against Blood Baron Viscopa, a real tough spot.
Yeah, I mean, this is, as you see, Mitch fire up the Mutavault here and attack. Harrison contemplating whether he wants to chump with the Mutavault or take 3. Seems like a pretty good spot to just take it on the chin here.
The tough thing is that now the only card Mitch can draw to live a turn is Renounce the Guilds. So the problem is that even if he draws the Renounce, he ends up dying to the Demon.
Yep. Harrison announces combat again.
If he had kept the Mutavault home, he could potentially block the Mutavault with the, or block the Blood Baron with the Mutavault. So Harrison does not attack with the Mutavault. So Harrison still in it, actually.
Although he has drawn and cast Packer with 3 up, so there's another wave of trouble coming. And Mitch shows a hand.
Loose use of still in it, I suppose.
Mitch shows a hand of lands, and Harrison moving on to the finals. 2 games to 0. Black-white mid-range over black-white humans.
Well done by Harrison Hite.
So hopefully momentarily we'll be moving over to the other feature match. I'm not sure what the stats of that is just yet. We have Neil winning 2-0. Red-white burn advancing to the finals.
Wow. Like
Quite
a
the
dark
upset.
horse.
Quite an upset. I do not think that matchup is very good. I've had a fair bit of experience playing it. Maybe a little bit different now. Searing Blood maybe adds enough raw power to the deck because